All right, we're back. I've been doing some more research as the day has unfolded. I've made a couple phone calls trying to verify information. Currently, it is just to start this off, too, there is not a statement that is released that says that they are for sure they have crossed the Canadian border. The FBI, the Phoenix FBI, is the field office that is working on this case. So I'm sure that they have a lot more intel that they know, but they're just not releasing it publicly yet. So just to kind of set that off where we're at as far as that, I know that rumor has been reported in multiple news articles, other people's videos, but as of right now, that is not confirmed information, just so we're clear on that. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. Actually, I have court documents that I want to share with you guys that were posted with one of these news articles, and we're just going to get a little bit deeper into it. Kind of the more of the extreme belief side of it, the connection to Julie Rowe. We're going to actually listen to a little bit of Julie's own statements. We're just going to get a little bit deeper because people are not understanding the fear around this case. There's some people that are like, he's with his mom, he's totally fine. But again, a lot of that is because religion controls people are afraid to discuss religion. Let's just put it out there because they instantly feel like you're cutting on their belief systems or you're an atheist or whatever the case may be. And none of that is true. I don't care what you believe in as long as it doesn't harm children and end up with people dead. Don't care. You can do whatever you want, but we have to start getting real with the reality of how dangerous these situations are and how scary these are. So we're going to get a little bit deeper into it. Hey, the cat lady. Hey, Helen. Hey, Lorraine, Cool Gamer, Revival, Dear Krabby, Vic. It's so good to see you guys. Okay, we're gonna hop right into this. I've got everything pretty much laid out the way I want it to be. We're going to start here with this newspaper article, and then I've actually saved. And the reason I am sharing this is because it is public information. Yes, it is to do with a minor, but there's some pretty strong statements in this that I figured would give a little bit more clarity on what's going on. It has been redacted, so that is a good thing too. But Fox 10 here locally releases, hey, B. Tim. Was it Lauren from Hidden True Crime? No, aka the cat lady. Are you talking about the documents that are released? No, it's Fox 10. Okay, so this is again from Fox 10. This is Justin Lum, who covers most of this stuff. He has been another one with Nate Eaton. It's basically Justin Lum here in the Arizona area kind of covers all this stuff, and then Nate Eaton seems to really cover a lot of it on the Idaho side. Utah, it's kind of up in the air of who covers things, if they even cover it factually. Oh, okay. Sorry. You were talking to Helen. All right. So I'm just going to go through this. Gilbert police and FBI are asking for help to find a missing teen believed to have been taken out of state by his mother. It's a case of custodial interference now crossing state lines into Idaho. I would go even stronger to say there's been some verbiage calling it an abduction. At this point in time, I think you could say that. However, they're not considered wanted fugitives right now. They are not, like, they could be facing charges, probably the mother, but the other ones are adults that left willingly. Blaze is the child of concern. He is the minor in this situation. This story may sound eerily familiar because of the alleged doomsday beliefs linked to the family. A motion for emergency temporary orders was filed by the father of 16-year-old Blaze Thibodeau. It was filed right after Blaze was taken from his Gilbert home to Boise, Idaho. Documents mentioned the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell saga that ended with multiple murders, saying the teen's mom formed similar beliefs about the end of the world several years ago. Sorry, y'all. This medication that I'm taking is making me so dried out. But it is starting to dry out my sinus system. That's a good thing. Blaze is a 16-year-old junior at Gilbert High School, now missing. He is believed to be with his mother, Spring Thibodeau, the two other family members, his uncle, Brooke Hale, and his older sister, Abby Thibodeau. Blaze's father, Benjamin, interviewed with Nate, which we went over earlier today, saying the teen was taken by his mom. This is the family here. This is Blaze, Spring, Brooke, and Abby. We watched all that earlier. I'm going to finish reading through this, and then we're going to go to the court documents. Benjamin petitioned for sole custody of Blaze the next day. Court documents say Spring took her son out of state against his will as part of her end-of-the-world doomsday belief system. They felt like they need to protect him, and they needed to take him to his undisclosed location where he would receive his calling and understand his role in the second coming and the Savior's return to earth, said Benjamin. Benjamin's motion also says Spring's brother is the leader of the group that believes Blaze is the Davidic messenger, prophesied in scripture. Court documents reveal that Spring allegedly believes she is a prophetess. I can't talk. And the group thinks they have super elite chosen status as messenger of the last days. She started spending significant amount of money on food prep. She was buying a lot of winter gear, even though we live in Arizona. She was buying tents. She was convinced that the saints would have to gather in the last days up into the mountains, and she was preparing for that, said Benjamin. Exhibits filed by Benjamin's lawyer show a journal entry titled Questions for the Lord and asks, am I one of the witnesses who preaches with Blaze? And will I be asked to give my life? A second exhibit is a letter that Blaze's uncle allegedly wrote to one of his kids saying, if you are reading this right now, it means that I am gone. I don't know where I'm going. I was not told. And these are, let me see if I can pull that up. I can't make it bigger. I'll download it and make it bigger. The note goes on to say that Brooke has been having visions on an incredible journey of faith over the past year. The FBI is now involved as officials tell us that the family could be traveling to Canada with heavy snow gear, last known to be driving a white 2004 Lexus GX 470 with dealer tags and pink tow hooks on the front. That's a big note. Plus, it has a lift kit and it has 33-inch tires. Blaze is described as 6'2" with light brown hair and green-blue eyes. So Gilbert Police Department on Facebook has also been posting stuff. If you have any information, 480-503-6500. Reference report number 23-161-023. On October 27th, we have obtained a criminal complaint where police are recommending charges of conspiracy to commit custodial interference against Spring and Brooke. Warrants have also been issued. Documents also tell us that Blaze has strongly resisted his mom's alleged beliefs. If you have seen Blaze or his family, contact the FBI. Okay. So kind of the same thing we had heard earlier. Hey, everybody coming in. Thank you for joining me. But I want to share this because I want to go through some of this a little bit closer, and then we're going to go ahead and break some of this down. So this is the petition for dissolution of a non-covenant marriage. I'm not going to read it all. Of course, they're here in Arizona. It's kind of the normal back and forth. Yeah, Helen, that was wild. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, that was really a trip. I was like, oh, okay. So we're going to start here. Neither party is a member of the U.S. Air Force. The parties were married on December 19th, 1997 in Provo, Utah, and have remained husband and wife since that date. The parties do not have a covenant marriage as defined by ARS 25-901. The marriage between the parties is irretrievably broken, and there is no reasonable prospect for reconciliation. The conciliation provisions in ARS either do not apply or have been met. Husband sought to file under this provision for conciliation, and wife disapproved. According, this petition is filed. There is one minor child in common in the parties, Blaze Isaiah Thibodeau, born November 8th, 2006. Wife is not now pregnant. Father makes the following allegations in accordance with the requirements of ARS. Okay, this is what's interesting. For the past 5 years, the child has resided at the following addresses, blank thankfully, from 2013 to present with mother and father. Husband has not previously participated as a party in an action concerning custody of the minor child in Arizona or another state. Husband does not have any information, any custody proceeding concerning the child mentioned above, pending in a husband does not have any information, any custody proceeding concerning the child mentioned above, pending in court of this or any other state. Husband does not know of any person not a party to this proceeding that has physical custody or claims to have custody or visitation rights with respect to the child mentioned above. The court has jurisdiction pursuant to ARS to determine a child's legal decision-making authority because Arizona remains the home state of the minor child and has been the child's state of residence for more than 90 days. The court should grant the parties joint legal decision-making authority custody of the minor child. The parties should share parenting time with the child, and the parenting plan adopted by the court should be in the child's best interest. Domestic violence has not occurred during the marriage. Neither party has been convicted of a drug offense or driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol within the past 12 months. Child support should be ordered according to Arizona child support guidelines in accordance with physical custody schedule entered herein. The court should make all appropriate allocation of federal and state tax. This is pretty typical stuff. The child is currently covered by the father's insurance. Pretty typical, going through all of it. But there's a few things in here that I wanted to point out. And you can go ahead and read this yourself too. Again, it's on Fox 10, our local part. Where did it go? Talks about spousal support. It goes into the signing documents. No, where is the other page? Maybe it's, hold on, I'm missing a page. Give me a second. I'm missing one of the pages. Maybe this isn't going to attach on this. It might be because I'm on my computer screen. All right, I might have to skip that part and try to get it to load because there's another part that his statements actually of what is happening here are really disturbing. So while I try to get that up, what did Revival ask? What is a non-covenant marriage? Revival, good question. Let me find out right quick. I really don't know some of the verbiage in Arizona. A non-covenant marriage. This is any marriage in Arizona where the parties did not voluntarily opt in to a covenant marriage. In other words, it is a marriage where the parties can seek a divorce for any reason. So basically a no fault is what I'm asking, or what I'm assuming. The fault provisions do not apply. Almost all marriages in Arizona are non-covenant marriages. So basically no fault dissolution. So this had just been filed right before all of this kicked off. So hold on, let me go full screen for a second because I'm going to share. So we've talked about, and earlier in my stream, I mentioned there was a connection to Julie Rowe from 2015 with Spring Thibodeau, the mother. And I will try to load up the other documents because there's statements in there about the fears that he was having. If I can get it to load, it's really important. If not, I will definitely get it to load and post it for you guys because it's really important to me for everybody to have transparency of why this is so fearful. But one of the things in all of these statements that we have heard so far, even with Ben talking, we heard about the connection to Julie Rowe, and we heard about them claiming that Blaze was to be this Davidic servant. And a lot of people are really confused on what that is. I'm not even as familiar with the depths of all of this stuff until I started really digging into it today. So I figured there was a couple of things I wanted to do. The thing that connects a lot of these cases and is putting a lot of fear into people's mind is the connection of Julie Rowe. Now, looking back, Julie Rowe wrote her visions and was published by Chad Daybell. Those of you that are not familiar with that, I think everybody is familiar with that. Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, unfortunately, are responsible for multiple people's deaths, including 2 children, JJ and Tylee, along with other people too. Unfortunately, I don't even know the depth of their chaos at that. So we're going to look into a little bit further the visions of glory and some of these things that we're hearing around this and what their belief systems are. And I'm going to play it from their perspective. I actually found a channel that promotes the visions of glory that broke it down chapter by chapter. And I'm going to start there. So we're not going to listen to the whole thing. I just want to really listen to the forward so people kind of understand the gravity of this situation. And I also want to make it very clear again. If you are LDS, if you are non-denominational, if you're Pentecostal, if you're Baptist, if you're an atheist, if you practice witchcraft, you are welcome here. This is not to cut down on anybody's belief systems. This is an extreme offshoot group that this is nothing to do with true LDS belief systems. They're kind of interwoven, but I am not cutting on the LDS. I have questions about the LDS doctrine in itself, the Book of Mormon, yet that's for another day. But I want people to understand this is not to cut on your religious beliefs. You are entitled to believe in whatever you want. However, that line is crossed when it affects a child. These are children that are being affected by these extreme belief systems, and they are using God's visions and their prophecies and all this BS to harm these children and basically try to make it okay. And it's never going to be okay. These are not true LDS beliefs. These are actually very contradictory to the LDS book, to the Book of Mormon, to their belief systems. However, the silence from the high up Mormon leaders really starts making me think, what is going on anymore? Because the fact that they won't come out and denounce this and really strongly, yes, they excommunicated Julie Rowe in 2019, but they should have excommunicated her a long time ago and made a very strong stance against these extreme belief systems, because there's people that have been conforming to these beliefs for a long period of time. Now, let me give you some information on her. Hey, difficult research. I'm excited to hear you break all this down. I am so excited to hear you break all this down. And I'm really sorry this is happening again for so many of you that have been involved in this stuff for a long time. I can't even imagine the fear you feel right now. Honestly, that's why I really want to talk about how much deeper this goes, because it's not about just a missing child. It's about these extreme belief systems. We also have another reminder. Jarrett Brooks is still missing from northern Arizona, disappeared on July 4th. His family has some of these extremist beliefs that are in the area of, there's a lot of questions around this. He just disappeared out of nowhere too. And we've covered a little bit about that. There's just a lot of things that are going on that don't make sense and should really scare people. In my opinion, they're using what is happening overseas as a part of their fear mongering to kind of push people into these fight or flight modes, I guess. I'm sure it does difficult research. Hey, everybody coming in. Thank you for being here. Absolutely a blank slate. They can be. This has nothing to do. I keep hearing people talk about, well, I don't want to talk about it because it involves religion. Truthfully, this is not about religion. This is an offshoot group that don't really conform to the typical Bible. This is not about religion. They're using the religion to hide behind, to mask their evil doings, in my opinion. This is not what any God that I choose to believe that would ever exist would ever prophesize to anybody. This is not what I choose to believe. And again, you're allowed to believe whatever you want to. However, the God I choose to believe in would not sacrifice children. They would not try to identify them as evil and dark and light and dark spirits and all this stuff. Children are children. It's just not, this is not about religion. This is not about, yes, they have LDS ties, but they are a complete offshoot of the LDS religion. Absolutely, Nana L. This is radicalism. Absolutely difficult research. And that's the scary shit about this. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of background for those of you not familiar with Julie Rowe. This is off of Wikipedia. I encourage you to go do your own research. The reason I'm taking this is because it includes, there's a lot more out there, and we are going to really get into Julie Rowe. But there is a statement in here from the church that it's really disappointing anyways. Julie Rowe is an author and self-proclaimed clairvoyant. She claims to have had a near-death experience in 2004, during which she also claims to have had visions pertaining to the end times events. The LDS Church education system placed Rowe's book, A Greater Tomorrow, that's the other thing. She's, of course, a publisher that used Chad Daybell to publish her books. A Greater Tomorrow on the list of spurious materials. I cannot talk tonight. that was circulated to teachers of high school seminaries and to college-age institutes of religion. The list stated, although Sister Rowe is an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, her book is not endorsed by the church and should not be recommended to students or used as a resource in teaching them. The experiences she shares are her own personal experiences and do not necessarily reflect church doctrine. So this was before she was excommunicated. In April of 2019, Rowe was excommunicated from the LDS Church. In 2020, Rowe emerged in the media spotlight due to her past association with former friend and publisher Chad Daybell, who was arrested in connection with the murders of Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow. So that's just a little bit about her. She has had many books published on that. Thank you, Revival, for sharing that. All right, and I'm not going to keep you guys super long, but I want to do this, and I really wanted to play some of these because in my own need for understanding, I found this and I was like, first of all, it's scary to me that there's channels out here promoting difficult. I won't be shocked probably at all. I don't think anything could shock me at this point in time, to be quite honest. But this kind of shocks me that there's channels out here promoting this stuff. I mean, that's kind of an issue to me. So just so you guys know what this channel is called, it's called Latter-day Media. Come follow, what is it? Come follow Christ. Now, they might not buy into all of it. However, they buy into enough of it, and she's going to give us a little bit of a breakdown about the book for those of us that have not read it, okay? This is kind of interesting to me. Let's go. Oh, by the way, this is all under fair use. This is on for educational and entertainment purposes only. We have a missing 16-year-old child. Again, just to kind of clarify why we are talking about this, Blaise Thibodeau, a 16-year-old from the Arizona area, is currently missing. He is traveling with his mom, his uncle, and his sister in a 2004 Lexus GX 470 that has pink tow hooks on the front. He is 6'2", about 180 pounds, longer brownish blonde hair, probably in a beanie hat of something like that. The car has a dealer tag and the pink tow hooks on the front. It's got 33-inch tires on it and a lift kit. They are outfitted for being outdoors. They have about $54,000 cash on them between all of them. We don't know where they're headed, but that is what it is. Oh, difficult. I can't even imagine being in this hole as long as you have. All right, well, let's go. This is pretty interesting, but I want you to pay attention to some of the verbiage she uses when she's explaining the foreword of this book.
Robin just gave us a presentation. I am leading a discussion, and there's a big difference. All right, so all I'm doing is facilitating a discussion about this because I'm assuming anybody who came today has read this book and it touched them in some way, and they've had some experiences. So there are certain elements here where I have had some cool experiences with something similar, and I'm happy to share what I've experienced, but I want to hear from you as well, because I know there's some really good experiences out there on things that maybe we don't talk about in public too much. But
we don't talk about in public too much.
I think we do need to talk about it because it's important. The first thing I wanted to say is, Robin, thank you for making that comment. For those of us that do know who Spencer is, he has asked that we do not use his real name.
I'll use his real name. His name is Tom Harrison. The book is centered around a child psychologist by the name of Tom Harrison, who goes by the name Spencer in the book Visions of Glory. Tom Harrison is a well-known child psychologist in Utah. He still is alive. The book was actually written by John Pontius, who has now passed away. Just a little bit more.
Has been under so much attack for this.
Hey, Beth.
He's still working. He has an important job. He's a child psychologist, and he doesn't want to be attacked. And what we have to keep in mind is this is a dream. It is no different than the John Taylor dream, than the Cardston prophecy.
Cardston prophecy, just so you know, you guys have probably heard the name come up today, Cardston, Canada. Cardston, Canada is one of the belief systems and these visions that people continue to have. Cardston, Canada is made up of about 80% Mormon. And that is why people continue to go back to, are they headed to Canada? Is this what they're trying to do? I'm not really sure myself. We don't really know where they're headed. I just hope that they're found, and I hope Blaze is safe and sound. I hope that for the entire family, because in my opinion, they're manipulating people who are going through some sort of crisis as is, and then they jump into these extreme belief systems. There's a lot of paranoia in this. I said this again. If you do happen to run across them, please just call law enforcement. Do not approach, because they'll take off. Paranoia is a big factor in this, in my opinion. Let's get into it.
We don't count that as scripture. We file it away as interesting information. And when we have a similar situation, we go back and say, oh, look at that. Just like Robin said, there it is. It's another pattern repeating, and it just repeated for me. So we're not saying that this is scripture in any way. This is just fascinating information just to keep it out there in your mind, because I believe there's quite a bit of truth to this, and there's other things I am completely unsure about.
Difficult. I'm going to hurry and speed through this and just get some of this done so we can join your live, because I personally am interested to hear all of your thoughts, because you have been in this for so long. So you guys bear with me. We're not going to make this really long. We'll break it down further, but please sub up to Difficult Research if you do not know who she is. If you're not familiar with her, I encourage you to go check out her channel. She has been amazing in the search for justice for Tylee and JJ, and she is family. So I really encourage you to please sub up to her, and we will be going over, I will be hurrying through this so we can go over and watch her stream, those of you that would like to join us. But I draw off of people with that type of background and reliability in this field, because those voices need to be elevated so much.
So let's leave it at that. I want to start with the forward, because I think this is important. So what he says in the very beginning, he says, honestly, I had to dig deeply just to find words to describe what I've experienced. He said, there is no analog in the common mortal experience for what I saw. Right. So keep that in your mind as we're studying this. Is it any different than Isaiah when he was trying to describe cars and trains? You know, so this is what he's trying to describe, what he saw. I believe he saw it. Did he get it right? I don't know. But let's take what he saw and kind of run with that.
Well, did he get it right? But he's also having somebody else write the story.
Exactly.
So then it's the version of the
It's lost in translation.
It is.
Explaining what he was explaining to him.
Yes.
Built-in deniability. It's translated by somebody else. His vision is written by somebody else, you know, culpability kind of thing.
And he says in here, so John Pontius asks him, and he says, is this all of your visions? And he goes, no, 30 to 40% of them. You know, so yeah, this isn't even his words, although he did approve it. Yeah. This was how he described what he saw. He said, because of the personal nature of each of these visions and the fact that they dealt with Spencer's own journey, this has limited Spencer's view of things, that he doesn't know the places and events where they would be. He does not know what will happen in Europe, South America, or Asia. He does not know the outcome of wars or the result of world events. He did not see the destruction of the land and the sea prophesied in the book of Revelation. He assumes it was because it didn't impact him. What he did see was a sweeping vision about the future of North America and the overwhelming events and devastations that would cleanse and reshape this country and parts of Canada.
All right. Pay close attention to the upcoming pieces that she's going to point out. And if you have been paying attention, you'll tie them into what we've been talking about.
These include foreign invasions, a devastating plague, floods, earthquakes, continental fracture, the dividing of America by a new canyon, the filling of the Gulf of Mexico by a new landmass. And we just had a speaker tell us exactly what that was going to be, because Sam Castor told us
Is
that.
that what you're reading?
Oh, that's another name.
Forward? Because my forward doesn't say any of that. So.
Yeah, it does on page 16.
I'm on X
Quick interruption. They can't figure out what page they're on.
16. So is that 16 or
I
14?
have
14.
XV that says forward.
Next page.
Everybody-
Yeah, they've got quite a few. That's why I'm going to handle the forward.
I
And
don't have my original book. I bought this one a few years
That's
ago.
the same one that Helen has though, the green strip. Yeah, so next page.
Yeah.
Turning page.
I think I
They must not have got a vision of what page to turn to. Sorry. Pause.
bought this book 3 times and
Oh,
I keep
I
lending it
bought
out and it
4 or
never comes
5.
back. So anyway, so he sees the filling of the Gulf of Mexico by a new landmass, changes in the weather and the constellations of heaven, the return of the 10 tribes, the
The return of the 10 tribes.
miraculous return of the saints to build the New Jerusalem temple, the gathering of the elect, the miracle.
The gathering of the elect. We have been talking about the elect around the Tim Ballard case and some around the other Mormon cases. Pay attention.
Of the millennium, the mission and mighty powers of the 144,000.
The 144,000, the mission and the powers of the 144,000. That is the segment we will be doing tomorrow, because I think that people don't quite understand what that means, or it's not typical. That's usually referred to as a JW type of thing, but no, it's a whole thing within this.
And the final celestialization of the earth at the end of the millennium. So this is what he has seen, but he's only seen it from his very small vision. So we mustn't assume that's what it's going to look like for everyone. So just take it with a grain of salt there.
Take it with a puke bag. I mean, if you need to puke because this is bullshit, feel free to do so. And again, please don't think I'm cutting on your faith, because you're entitled to believe what you want to believe. This stuff is just not, it's harmful.
What I really loved is, who here has studied some of John Pontius's work, especially Triumph of Zion? Have you studied that as a group, Triumph of Zion?
No, I couldn't put other roots. I didn't even know you wrote other roots.
Oh, yeah, he's a
bunch of books.
I will just put a plug out there.
Following the light of
Triumph of Zion. It is a heavy, heavy book, and it is phenomenal.
Isn't that a blog post?
No, that's on Blog My Soul.
That's Journey to the Veil. part
One
Yeah.
and two.
Yeah. So yes.
Following the light of Christ.
I bought that book. I've never read it.
I'm just telling you, Triumph of Zion is probably the pinnacle of his work. I read it probably 8 years ago, and probably 75% of it went over my head. We're rereading it again. And after Sam Castor and Michael Rush and Abraham Gileadi,
Oh, you remember that name from earlier today when Ben was doing his interview? Abraham Gileadi. Do you remember that mention? Yeah, I've got a whole segment coming on him too, because he is another one that has been pretty eccentric, in my opinion. And that was who Ben had said Spring had really been studying recently, was his works.
starting to make sense of Triumph of Zion. But he had just written Triumph of Zion, which is all about what Zion is going to look like, when he met Spencer. And the timing of this was absolutely perfect. And when he met him and Spencer began to tell John about his experiences, John was almost giddy, because he said, I have studied, sought, prayed, and obtained glimpses of my own journey through the latter days, but I had never heard another living person speak of these exact same things. So these two really connected together, and they had sort of been given very similar information from the Lord. And then John says to Spencer,
Well, there's just one part that where Spencer was praying, because he was told he couldn't tell anyone,
that's right.
and that there would be a person named John.
Yes.
who wanted
Yes.
To help him, but he waited for 8 years.
Yes,
And then it was somebody that had had a parallel experience that could understand.
yes, exactly.
Did you understand what they were saying? Is that this was another vision that he had, that somewhere along the lines that this John would come into his life. It was 8 years later, but have a parallel experience. Like, this was all a vision that they had. He didn't just seek out a publisher and a ghostwriter for his book. I mean, to each their own, but they make everything into this like divine vision.
Yeah, and John Pontius said, No, I can't be the John. That has to be like John the Baptist or something. It can't be me. Just very, very humble. Anyway, so John asks Spencer, do you know what these things mean? And Spencer looked innocently and said, no, not really, not at all. So then John explained what he understood about the vision, and Spencer wept joyously, confessing without any evident pride or self-consciousness that he had been searching most of his life for the meaning of the vision that he had described. And John said, it was my understanding and his visions that fit hand in glove, giving us both a far broader understanding. So there were two men. This was a very symbiotic relationship here where they both benefited. God brought them together at the right time.
God brought them together, or the devil, in my opinion. Okay, so we are going to get into this John the Beloved. Yep, it's all exactly. Oh, this shit's so wild to me. Okay, so we're going to get into this a little bit further, but I also want to play an excerpt from Julie Rowe before we end for the evening.
Does everybody know who the
and we will go back to all of this too. Don't think I didn't know that she had just scheduled the live. Otherwise I wouldn't have done it, because again, people like this is who I draw from. So please join Difficult Research in just a few. And I will be ending here because again, these are people that have been deep in this rabbit hole for years. And this is where people like that can really make it understandable of why it's such a fear and why this is so scary. And people really need to wake up and pay attention. We have a missing child out there.
The apostolic friend was?
Thank you, guys. Okay.
Yeah, it was Neil A. Maxwell. Yeah. Yeah. So that was the apostle.
Wasn't he the one that told him John would come to him? Someone named John? I thought
that was an angel that told him that.
Someone specifically asked Spencer who that was, and he said.
Yes, he's told numerous people it was Neil A. Maxwell that he was his dear friend. Yes. And he talks about his relationship with Neil A. Maxwell and how devastating it was when Neil A. Maxwell died. And he actually got himself into a little bit of a paralysis of depression after Neil A. Maxwell died, because he was the one person he could confide in. And I found it fascinating that this heavenly messenger stood by the side of his bed. So,
hey, remember, this is a heavenly messenger. Yet, I don't exactly know what's so heavenly about this, but I'm going to switch gears really quick. We're going to go back to that one in a little bit, or tomorrow we'll go back to it. But I want to share something from Julie Rowe herself. This is the famous Julie Rowe, infamous Julie Rowe, I should say.
Hi, welcome to the Julie Rowe Show. Today is Tuesday, September 12th, 2017. Eric and I are on the line. We'd like to welcome you to our show.
Different name, Vic.
Eric, would you like to introduce our topic for us?
Sure. Looking forward to this one. Julie, as you know, and many of your listeners know, the davidic servant is a topic of increasingly popular discussion in certain circles.
Certain circles, extremists.
I find it an interesting topic. It's not one I've studied as in depth as others, but I've asked myself, why is this such an increasingly popular topic? And there are probably many listeners, don't you think, Julie, that lots of your listeners may not even know what this is. It's not a real popular or widely discussed topic, right?
Right. Although I've had several people ask me in the last 3 years, and I've had increasingly so in the last couple of months, people asking about the davidic servant.
Right.
So, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's a common topic. You don't hear about it in church meetings in the LDS church. Very few people talk about it, really, because there's so little known about it.
Right.
Do you guys know who also claimed to be a davidic servant? There's multiple, but anybody have any guesses? And the reason why this is important is because they're claiming that Blaze is to be a davidic servant. That's why this is important. And again, Spring had communication with Julie Rowe back in 2015. That's why this all connects together.
Well, and I've asked myself, why is it that we don't know that much about it? And the more I study the gospel, especially with regard to these latter day topics, and as we transition from the celestial kingdom into a terrestrial sort of kingdom, I'm starting to understand that there are many of these doctrines that are little understood, little discussed. The brethren, meaning the quorum of the 12 apostles in the first presidency, have said little to nothing on some of these topics. And
So the high ups in the church have said little to nothing on these topics because it's not part of the LDS doctrine. Difficult research. I don't even know how to do that, to be honest. I've never done any of that stuff.
thinking, well, we are in a celestial church. And so I'm starting to think of these other doctrines that are little discussed as terrestrial doctrines. And therefore, I find it interesting that they're, becoming of interest at this time as we transition between the two kingdoms. What do you think?
Right. I agree with you on that. I find it interesting
Chad Daybell thought he was a Davidic servant.
that we're at this point in history, it seems, that more and more people are taking interest in some of these doctrines. I know that's not coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's that the brethren don't want to talk about them. It's that the Lord is instructing them to talk about celestial doctrines because the large majority of the people on the earth are still not even able to accept celestial doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord doesn't want to give us information we're not ready for because that goes to our condemnation rather than our exaltation. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to be very careful with this in discussing the Davidic servant. I've been given strict counsel from the Lord.
She's been given strict counsel from the Lord. Strict counsel from the Lord. Did you all hear that?
To be very cautious in what I say and how I say it, because those who are listening within the sound of my voice, once you receive this knowledge, and then you take that to the Lord for confirmation from the Spirit, you are then receiving greater light and knowledge for which you are accountable. So keep that in mind as you listen to this or any other podcast that we do.
If you combust randomly, like poof, or you have a Swiftie called on you, she might be the same caliber of ability. So be careful. You might need to put cotton balls in your ears first or some weird shit. I don't know. This is too much.
Especially those that talk about doctrines that have been revealed through the prophet Joseph Smith, and through the scriptures, but maybe have not been expounded upon. I'm not talking about new information, but I am talking about information that's not widely known. And so it will become new to many, many people. So I want to make that clear. This is not new information. There are sources out there which can serve as witnesses to my witness.
Witnesses to her witness. Okay.
But just keep in mind that these are not widely known, but that the instruction I was given and very clear vision on Saturday.
She was given a clear vision on the Saturday before this podcast.
This past weekend was that this next podcast was to be done regarding the Davidic servant.
I'm really angry with God right now because God don't give me my content on YouTube. God don't tell me what to do for my next freaking YouTube segment. What the hell? I'm getting a little angry here. She's getting visions about her next podcast. Yo, God, can you help me out? Well, I guess you keep giving me all these people to talk about. So I guess maybe that is God's telling me to use my voice. But this shit, instantly I was like, oh, here we go. She's doing the whole thing. Like, I can't talk about this. It's not widely accepted. These are ways of controlling a narrative and playing off of fear mongering. This is that paranoia, the fear mongering, in my opinion, that they set up their little shticks for people to be like, oh, it's just a hush hush thing. It's because people don't want to believe it. It's really true. That's why people don't want to believe it. It's that type of stuff.
I first had people asking me through email and at my speaking events what I knew about the Davidic servant 3 years ago. And for the first year to year and a half, my answer to them was that the Lord told me that was too sacred a topic to discuss at the time, in part because I wasn't comfortable with my understanding of it and how that played into my mission, and I wasn't comfortable with sharing my witness until I had a sure knowledge. And at that time, I was still trying to discern my memory and what I was remembering and what the Spirit was telling me, and making sure that I was not being deceived on this topic. I can now say that I have a sure witness of some of this topic, and I'm still seeking further light and knowledge regarding all of it.
Mm.
Well, that sounds good. I want to.
That sounds wonderful, Eric. I agree with you. What the hell did she say? Because all she sounded like was Jody Hildebrandt, all the other people. She sounded like it could be a Tim Ballard speech, the same type of maneuvering of the words, this big, huge production. Oh, it's such a secret thing. I had been given a vision, all of those things.
To hear from you in a minute, what you understand. I think a good place to start is what very little we have in the scriptures. There's some stuff in Doctrine and Covenants that references this topic. There's stuff in Isaiah and other books of the Old Testament. But even before all that, I want to start in a place where most people probably wouldn't start on this topic, and it's in ancient Israel culture. If you go back to ancient times, the Hebrews, our ancestors, lived the gospel in a slightly different way than we do. They lived in what we would call a church state today. So their government was their church was their government. And they had 3 governing functions in their society. And the first of which we would call, I call, a civic leader, a king. The second would be the priest, you might think of the high priest, the one who oversaw rites and rituals concerning worship and temple and animal sacrifice and those sorts of things. The third was,
notice he mentioned animal sacrifice.
An interesting group. And to me, this group is interesting for lots of reasons, but it's the group they would refer to as prophets, teachers, and those sorts of things, warners, messengers. I think this is really important to understand for lots of reasons, even beyond the Davidic servant. For example, we think of, I think members of the church and others today struggle with the idea of a prophetess and what she does, and because we don't have those today in church government. And so some people struggle with the idea of Ruth. What do I do with Ruth or Deborah or Anna or all these other prophetesses mentioned in the Bible? The reason they fit in is in this third group of government. So to an Israelite, they would have looked to any 3 of those different people.
You guys are crazy. Thank you so much. You guys are wild. Thank you. Thank you, Helen. It works for Pastor Feller. You guys have lost it. AKA the cat lady. Okay, fine. We're playing it. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Revival. Miss Leah, I love you too. All right, here we go. I'm going to play it one time, and then you see where we're going with this. You see where we're going. You can go over and watch this too, but I'm going to play the cult song. I think it's a little loud on the thing. I'm going to have to add Julie Rowe's face in here now too, but here we go.
Whoops, you're in a cult. 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 Giving grandma COVID and whoops, you're in a cult.
Whoops, you're in a cult. Please stay away from the cults. Okay, a couple more minutes. Well, she restarts her computer. Well, listen.
As a leader, and they would have listened and heeded their advice and their warnings and so forth.
Oh, thank you, Helen.
That's an interesting place to start when we're talking about Davidic servant. When we hear about the doctrine of Davidic servant, we tend to think of it as an individual person, and that may or may not be true. What I'm learning about the Davidic servant is that it probably is one person, but what the Spirit keeps cautioning me about is don't limit yourself to one person. There could be many. And
so there could be many, according to Eric, whoever this Eric guy is. He says that don't limit yourself. So basically, he's telling you he don't fucking know. Sorry, excuse my French. He don't know. He really don't know, but okay.
There could be this idea of presidencies. In other words, you have a king, like in ancient Israelite times, a king, a priest, and a prophet. Okay, now I've just kind of laid some doctrinal fan work and taken us back to our Israelite roots. Julie, does anything come to your mind as we talk about this idea of sort of a governing structure or governing body?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate you laying the groundwork for that as I come in as a witness to let those who are listening in the sound of my voice hear the truth that I have come to understand.
She's coming in as a witness. I don't know if that means she's coming in hot, coming in with more BS. I'm not really sure what this means to her, but.
And then I'll let you know what I know. First of all, what comes to mind is, as you guys have heard me, those that have listened to the radio shows and podcasts, you've heard me say before that the Lord works in sacred patterns. The eternities are patterned after sacred patterns. And what I know and what I remember, what I've been shown, is that we have patterns of both men and women that stand in councils and in presidencies. So with that, my understanding here on the earth is it's patterned the same way. Lord works in sacred patterns. Those are eternal patterns in the heavens. The light side works on these patterns. The dark side simply counterfeits them, mimics.
So the light and the dark, here we go.
Or tries to manipulate them in a manner that is not in keeping with the Lord's ways.
Manipulation tactics. I mean, she's pointing them out. She's just pointing them in the wrong direction.
So keeping with the sacred patterns of eternity, knowing that there is a presidency, essentially we have the godhood, which is a presidency. Here on earth in the Lord's church, we also have a presidency with the prophet of the church and his two counselors, and then with the councils, similar to the councils in heaven, where you have the initial 12 and then extending out into the 70s. What I see in the councils in heaven is a council of 12, with the presidency making it 15, leading into a council of 24, and then extending out into the 70s and on out to 144,000 and more. That's the same pattern that's here on the earth, or that will be on the earth when the Church of the Firstborn is brought to light.
The Church of the Firstborn is brought to light.
The Church of the Firstborn will be brought back to this earth, or brought to this earth through the prophet Enoch. What happens with that is that those from the other side of the veil at a certain designated time in the plan will come to the earth as resurrected or translated beings, and they will set apart those who are serving in the presidency, working with the davidic servant. The davidic servant is a king.
A king.
And he has a brother who is the priest. Then there will be a Hopi Indian who will be a prophet, and there will be others that will fill
a Hopi Indian
fill the role as prophets. But in this particular instance, this is the Hopi Indian. And then we have the Davidic servant's friend who serves as a witness. That is the pattern that was established on the earth during the days of Christ and before Christ, including previous dispensations. Currently in the sixth dispensation, which is...
Have y'all heard this in the Bible? Any of y'all ever heard? Yeah, just what? Exactly. This is the most, but this is part of the reason, if you just listen to it, she's just spinning words to make it sound like she's had these divine visions and they are going to, be able to predict the outcome. There's patterns and all of this stuff. The Church of the Firstborn is accessed by being invited, a call out. Yeah, I was listening to one of her call out videos earlier. By acting president, prophet of the Mormon Church to attend the second anointing. It's a title, not an actual place. Thank you for that. This is all just craziness to me. But this is part of what their belief system of Spring and her brother Brooke, and unfortunately Abby, this is part of what they believe in too.
Is the dispensation of the gospel for the last time, or the dispensation of the gathering of the elect from the four corners of the earth and the establishment of Zion, also called the dispensation of Yisrael. So, keeping with these patterns, I want to bring to mind different scriptures in John in the first chapter. Now, some may ask, where I learned of this, and I will say I learned of this through the Spirit, through my NDEs that I've had, and through confirmations of what they've been showing me regarding my mission and that of others. I have learned firsthand from John, and I think this is fitting given that that there are examples in the first chapter of John in the New Testament. If you go to John, first chapter, go to chapter 19 and start reading till about 25, 26, and you'll learn some more about that. John the Baptist was what is considered the hidden portion of the presidency. He came as a witness of the Savior Jesus Christ prior to Christ coming and fulfilling his mission. That was during the fourth dispensation presidency. So we have Peter, James, and John, who are a type and shadow, coming down as prophet, priest, and king. And then what most people don't realize, which has not
I don't think there's enough edibles in the world to make me make this make sense, to be honest.
been recorded or has not been noticed or has not been qualified, is the role that there is a fourth member of the presidency serving as the witness. So let's break this down a little bit.
Okay.
There are some patterns that occur. The king is always an archangel. The priest and king are always taken in the same manner. They're either translated or martyred. And the priest and king are always related by blood.
The priest and king are always related by blood.
They're father, son, brothers, half-brothers. So in this case, the Davidic servant is the king, meaning Jesus Christ. His brother, which is the priest, is John the Beloved. The prophet is a Hopi Indian, which I don't have permission from the Spirit to disclose that person's name.
She can't tell us that name because she don't have permission from the Spirit. Your Spirit sucks. I need transparency here, Julie. You're going to have to tell me his name, please. You might have by now, but I'm going to need you to give me some names here because I need to find Blaze.
And Elias is a title given to the witness in the
Right,
presidency.
SL?
And in this case, Elias, which is a member of the presidency, is the Davidic servant's friend. They all together are considered Davidic servants, but it's a Davidic servant presidency. And the Davidic king in this dispensation of the sixth dispensation of the gathering of the elect is Jesus Christ. In the seventh dispensation, which is Enoch, we have Elias being the witness of Noah and Moses, the prophet Joseph Smith,
Oh, God.
the priest Elijah, and the king Enoch. If you back this up going to previous dispensations, the first one being Adam and Seth, second Noah and Shem, the third Moses and Aaron, the fourth Jesus and James.
Y'all following this yet? Anybody understand it? You guys know what she's talking about? Yeah, there's going to be a quiz after this. I'm going to need to, right, Helen? That's what I'm saying. Like, I wanted to play this because this is this type of stuff these people are believing in. This, again, has nothing to do with religion. And I wanted to make this clear because, yes, she's using terms and biblical beings and people like that, but this really has nothing behind it. There is no factual basis. This doesn't follow the Bible. This is completely contradictory to the LDS doctrine. This is why the Quorum of the 12 and the presidency doesn't talk about it. Well, even if some of them believe in it, which is, I'm starting to feel like some of them might, none of this has any type of factual basis here. If I understood, I would say right functions. Fuck yeah. I mean, this is exactly, but I wanted to really pull it back because it is really hard to follow these connections and the people and the things that they say, but the teachings get really, really deep and people start believing it. Like they start thinking that they're understanding this stuff. They will absolutely believe that this is like some calling, because she has had a vision that totally stated absolutely SL. Some of these are old school doctrine beliefs too, that they've kind of tweaked and twisted for my understanding of what research I have done. like people that have like broke down some of her things. And I've only started just a little bit into that rabbit hole. Let me tell you, that's a big old rabbit hole. That's a big rabbit hole. But I wanted to start here and point out, if you guys are interested in this stuff, please go check out her channel. I don't conform to anything she says, but I think it would give you a really good look at how crazy these belief systems can be. Like, this, again, has nothing to do with the true religion, the Bible, anything. It is their own adaptation that they are getting people to buy into. Now, also, let me remind you of this too. We're going to probably end here on this one just because it's a lot. It's a lot to even try to understand this stuff. Plus, I want to head over and support difficult research. But if you guys are down this rabbit hole, I really encourage you to go watch some of this stuff from the other side if you're really interested in like understanding, because it's so deep. But Julie Rowe has connected herself to all these people and became this author in these visions. She is paid highly for these seminars. People are paying highly. Now, let me tell you one more thing. She was also responsible. Oh, Difficult. She's live. Okay, we'll head over and support her in just a moment. Difficult is live if you guys want to head over there. Julie, this is one thing that I wanted to put. She got people to sell their houses, you guys. Like, she got people. Okay, so this is from Mormon Stories podcast. This is on their website from September 8th, 2015. I'm going to end it here and then, yeah, absolutely, T. Scribe it down. Let's go. Hey, I got an idea. Let's go to the ketamine clinic. You come with me, T. I'll just ramble off some bullshit and we'll call it Doctrine. The Church of Nonsense. Revival, you up for that? Helen, you guys ready to go? We'll all just hook ourselves up to some ketamine drips and bye, the cat lady. See you in a little bit. We'll just hook ourselves up, right? Why not? I think Church of Nonsense sounds wonderful. Rabbit's going to have the Church of the Fluffle. Why not? Okay, let me get serious for a moment. This is the shit. This is the rabbit hole that I'm in trying to understand all this stuff. I grew up around extreme belief systems. I've shared some with some of these people. I offered to take care of the collection plate. Oh, God. Okay. We're all going to hell together. It'll be fun. Julie Rowe is an active believing Mormon. Again, this is back in 2015, and is the author of 2 books, A Greater Tomorrow and My Journey Beyond the Veil. And the time is now 3 books. That's 3 books. Oh, no. A Greater Tomorrow, My Journey Beyond the Veil. And the time is now. That's 2, sorry. In these books, Julie details her near-death experiences wherein she claims to have received divinely inspired visions of the past, present, and future. Julie and her followers, are heavily focused on the latter-day aspects of Mormonism and Christianity, with a heavy emphasis on predicting pending global disasters in the United States and abroad. Julie prophesizes, along with those of her peers, have reportedly led upwards of 10,000 plus believing Mormons to make somewhat drastic life decisions, including selling their homes, selling off their 401ks, purchasing gold, purchasing thousands of dollars worth of preparatory materials. That's where that whole prepper thing comes into play. That's the cash thing. A lot, obviously. And then food storage tents, trailers, guns, and ammunition for the pending global apocalypse, which is scheduled to begin in September of 2015. That was 8 years ago. I'm waiting. Are we going to get struck down here? That was 8 years ago. What are we waiting for? In this episode, we are joined. Oh, it was what they did. I encourage you. I'm going to go watch that one. And then they did an important update on 9/9/2015. 3 things about Julie Rowe that I've learned over the past 24 hours. The LDS Church has issued a following warning against Julie Rowe. Although Sister Rowe is an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ, I read that earlier on her thing. Number 2, from what I understand, Deseret Books is no longer carrying her books. They keep rescheduling. Damn it. I've got a scheduling conflict. I've had few people very close to her, family and friends, reach out to me over the past 24 hours to confirm they are very worried about her. People are concerned about her too. Very worried about her. And that they are very frightened, saddened by what is happening, and that without revealing details, her health history and her particular situation is one that, if fully known, should elicit sympathy, support, love, empathy, and not ridicule, judgment, with total acknowledgement that many people are possibly in harm's way because of her teachings. Family members of hers, y'all. Ooh, I like the island of Crete. I sound good with that. Sounds good. But I wanted to highlight that because family members reached out to Mormon Stories or Mormon Podcasts back in 2015 that they were concerned about Julie's well-being and the people who were following these teachings. That was 8 years ago. There has been a lot of people who have done stuff on her that have talked about mental health status and things of that nature. We'll get into that a whole different, y'all, this is such a deep rabbit hole. I can't even tell you, but I wanted to kind of touch base on some of this stuff and show you guys where I'm at in my research. But I'm going to end here because I want to go support difficult research, y'all. It is really important to me to elevate the voices of the victims. And this is a family member of JJ and Tylee's who has done years of deep diving into this. And I really, these people, I can't imagine how much PTSD this is triggering for her when she said that earlier. Like, I really can't imagine. And it just breaks my heart because they've lived through this horror before and they're still spinning the same wheels. And to know that another family is in this position has to just be heartbreaking for all these people. Another channel I highly encourage you guys to go check out that is doing, she will actually be on Ashley Banfield tonight, is also Lauren from Hidden True Crime. She is doing wonderful. She is a classy advocate for this stuff. She has actually attended some of these conferences and has been deep in this rabbit hole for a long time too. I'm trying to recognize the people around me that have done a lot of work. There was another channel that I shared with Helen earlier that I've got to find again. That was really good that we were watching earlier too. But y'all, please try to continue to put Blaze's face out there. There's a reason why this is so scary. Like, the further I get into this, the further I'm realizing that they don't even understand their own belief systems. It is fear-mongering. It is extreme paranoia. And I'm sure with the status of what's going on across the globe is not helping anything. And I don't know if that has intensified all the way around in some of the groups. I was sharing this earlier with you guys. It is definitely causing an intensified situation, but please keep Blaze in your thoughts. If you're the praying type, please keep, he needs them. Did I say Blake? Blaze. Please keep him in your thoughts. And I will be back tomorrow. I'm going to continue to do my research. We're going to finish these though, because I want to go through the chapter 1 of Visions of Glory. But, and we're going to finish with the Davidic servant too, because this stuff just gets wilder and wilder. And then she's actually got some call out stuff. Thank you so much, T. Me too. I really do. Functions. I'm really worried for his safety. But this just gets crazier and crazier. And I encourage you guys to educate yourselves. Don't take what I'm telling you as fact. Please go do your research. And I'm going to get that document to load of the statements given by the dad, because he actually talks about some of the things that were being stated before. And I can understand more of his fear now, like from his, and I love my mods too. You're one of them. All right, y'all, I am out. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. I will see you guys back here tomorrow, probably during the day. We'll probably touch on this, and then we will do a Take You to Church Sunday. Maybe. I got family stuff I got to do this weekend too. But I will see you guys soon. Thank you for tuning in again. Thank you for continuing to talk about Blaze and his family. We want them all brought home safe and sound. It's sad because these people are in some sort of crisis, and people like Julie Rowe, in my opinion, and other people prey on people like that. Tom Harrison, I can't even understand how this man was a child psychologist and still has a license. It drives me nuts to think about this. You guys are great. All right, y'all. See you all soon. Thank you again. And thank you all for the super chats and everything. I'll end you guys with one more button. Which one do I have? Which one do I want to play? Which one? Oh, I can play this one. Good night.
How do I say goodbye? Glad you came. Closing time.
Hit the road, Jack.
You don't have to go home, but make the best of this past and don't ask why. But you can't stay here.
Hit the road, Jack.
For those of you that are joining me over at Difficult Research, I will see you guys soon.